Desmond Island's greatest hits, Wondrous Tales of Extraordinary Jamaicans. This should whet people's appetite to want more of this. We have a people that's, I don't know if they've studied it enough. They say of us that we punch above our weight in the world. They speak of us as being audacious. Wherever Jamaicans go, they have to stand out.
Greetings, entrepreneurs. Welcome to the Authorpreneur Secrets podcast, the show that uncovers the secrets to win with books beyond book sales and dominate entrepreneurship. Through exclusive author interview stories and must-have resources, you will discover some of the secrets and strategies to thrive with books and generate lasting income. I invite you to become an Authorpreneur ambassador and join me in my mission to raise up 10,000 Caribbean entrepreneurs by 2030. Without further ado, let's get into the show. We're back. It's episode 118 of the Authorpreneur Secrets podcast. I'm your host, C. Ruth Taylor. We have a vision that fuels this show, and it is that by 2030, we'll be able to raise up 10,000 Caribbean entrepreneurs, both those at home and in the diaspora. That means we're challenging 10,000 authors to turn their book into a profitable income stream beyond book sales. That means you could be doing conferences, seminars, courses, something that is built around your book, and you're not just depending on book sales, because we believe that if you do this, it is one sure way to profit from your book and to create financial freedom. So I was on a break for the summer, and this episode is going to be aired on the 2nd of October, 2023. And October marks Heritage Month for those of us in Jamaica. And today we are having a very special guest. He is the founding editor of the second leading newspaper on the island of Jamaica, that's the Jamaica Observer. He is Desmond Allen OD, and October 1 marks 50 years in journalism. And he has been recognized for his sterling contribution to journalism. He has distinguished himself, and the government in 2014 bestowed on him the Order of Distinction, which is one of our nation's highest awards. And so you want to tune in for that as we learn more about Desmond Allen's greatest hits. Before we get into that interview, I want to just outline the way forward as it relates to the show. And if you're new to the show, take you along memory lane, so to speak. If you're looking at the background, you will see the backdrop of a book in green. That's Authorpreneur Secrets. That's a book that I wrote in the year that I started my authorpreneur journey. And it was about learning to write fast, publish affordably, and generating lasting income. Out of that book came the Authorpreneur Secrets Academy. And out of that very book came the show, the Authorpreneur Secrets podcast. And we also have from this book the Caribbean Authorpreneur Summit, held in January each year. And this is the perfect example of what we mean by authorpreneurship. Of course, there are other things that have been birthed out of this book, and you can go back and listen to episode 115, where I talk about my authorpreneurship journey and how I have leveraged a book to create multiple streams of income. And now I'm able to make a full-time living with my writing, or based on the skills and expertise and the content of my books. And so as we head towards 2030, Vision 2030, to raise up these 10,000 entrepreneurs, we want to use the show as inspiration and also education. So we'll be having some master classes each month that teaches you a bit about the publishing process, and some master classes that will get into how you can convert your book to profitable income streams. I'll also be featuring, especially in the coming months, graduates of the Authorpreneur Secrets Academy, and they'll be sharing their stories. And the graduates of the Authorpreneur Secrets Academy, they're going to take center stage for the Caribbean Authorpreneur Summit in 2024. That's going to be the third week in January. We're going to be talking about author success paths. It's all part of ensuring that more books go forth. One of the things we love to do is to promote legacy building books, because as Marcus Garvey, one of Jamaica's national heroes, says, people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. So we want to give the next generation roots that will help them to win. And so I want to encourage you to pen and pass it on. I just want to encourage you to share this episode with a friend and let us know how the podcast has been of benefit to you. And even what are some of the things that you'd like to see featured on this podcast? How can we improve it? I'm all ears. You can send your feedback to authorpreneursecrets@gmail.com and I will respond. So without further ado, let's get into the interview with Desmond Allen, OD. Today I have with me Desmond Allen. He is the former president of the Press Association of Jamaica and the founding editor of one of Jamaica's leading newspaper, the Jamaica Observer. He has covered the state visits of many heads of states, including the presidents of the United States, such as Barack Obama, Ronald Reagan, and he even was the chief media liaison to cover the visits of Queen Elizabeth II and the then Prince Charles, who is now the King of England. And this is his 50th anniversary as a journalist. So 50 years in journalism is quite a milestone. And he has chosen to mark this significant milestone by writing a book that's a compendium of 20 of his award-winning articles on extraordinary Jamaicans. It is our privilege and our delight to have Mr. Allen on our show. Welcome to the show, Mr. Allen.
Thank you very much, Ruth. It's really a tremendous moment for me. The 50 years of journalism and what it really means to me. But I hope you don't mind if I show off my gold shirt. That's right. I make sure I have my gold. That's my 50th anniversary. And of course, to show off my poster here.
Yes.
And it's all gold background and so on, right?
And I hope you don't mind me showing off
I love that.
this copy.
Yes,
of the book. It's really an honor to have you because you've distinguished yourself in the field of journalism, so much so that you received one of Jamaica's highest honors in 2014, the Order of Distinction. And so we want to know, despite all your experiences, some of those stories you covered in different countries, you studied overseas, you're fluent in French. Why did you decide to make your first book a compendium that features stories of Jamaicans and not some of those other extraordinary experiences that you've had in journalism and not even your own autobiography?
All right. I love those questions, Ruth. The thing that after 50 years of covering Jamaica and Jamaicans that has really captured my heart more than anything else is the Jamaican people. It's what I love most about Jamaica, the people. We have a people that's, I don't know if we've studied it enough. They say of us that we punch above our weight in the world. They speak of us as being audacious. You know, wherever Jamaicans go, they have to stand out. You know, they have this attitude. And you see what happens with our sports people, how we dominate. There's a belief that we can do it. And so we, year after year, we do it at the highest levels of sport. But, not just in sport, but all over. And you see where now they want to take away our nurses and our teachers and our doctors and so on. There's just this thing about Jamaican people. And so for my first book, which I hope it is the first, I wanted to pay tribute to this. I'm supposed to be a wordsmith, but sometimes it's hard to find the word to fully describe Jamaican, but this Jamaican determination and grit and resilience, you know, that makes us a really very special people. So I think this book, in which I've selected 20 out of I countless numbers of people I've interviewed who are the best examples of what the true Jamaican person or persona is. If it is the will of the Lord, I will be able to do other books. In this book, in addition to the stories that I have published about the 20 extraordinary Jamaicans, I also have a fairly brief story about my own life, in which I get a chance to pay tribute to my mother, who used to, like when I was sick as a child in Montego Bay, she would walk me from Montego Bay for about 3 miles on her back in the hot sun to take me to the hospital. And I subsequently learned that Jamaican mothers do these kinds of things for their children. It's like nothing they wouldn't do for them, So it gives me a chance to pay tribute to the Jamaican persona in all their glory. And what I've tried to do besides writing a very interesting story on each of them, or interesting interview, was to combine combine fiction with the non-fiction. The approach is that, okay, so these lives are non-fictional, right? They're non-fictional, they're real. But, people read better, the more interesting the way you write it and put it. So I approach it as if I was writing a novel, or just an interesting book by the kind of stylized language that I use. And it seems to work, because when those interviews were published a long time ago, the response from Jamaican all over the world was just tremendous. They couldn't get enough of it. I used to serialize it, for example, because you're writing about people's lives. It's not easy to just make it very short. You can just encapsulate everything in 1 or 2 pages of a newspaper. So what I would do, I'd carry over to the next week. And there are people who would write me to say, look, we can't wait till next week. Just send me just send me the raw material so I can at least get to finish it before. And of course, I wanted them to wait till next week, because it means they'd have to buy the paper again, But the point is that it works, and I hope that those who buy this book will see it and absolutely enjoy it while learning about themselves. Because that's the other great thing about it. You see people who were in situations like many of us, and how they faced their obstacles. They didn't give up. They believed in themselves, and they moved forward, and eventually they achieve their dreams. It can still happen. And why should it not happen to us? There are those who were not born poor in the stories, but they also had tremendous obstacles to face, to overcome, before they could achieve their own dreams. So it's really a great story. It's a good mix of the Jamaican nation, because it represents, of course, the African descendants, Chinese, Lebanese, Indians, you name it. So you really get a chance to see, when they all come together, what it is to be a Jamaican.
All right, Mr. Allen, I have a cheeky question for you. Somebody asked me, and so I am going to pose it to you.
Yes,
Since it's your book, the person was wondering, why is it that Mr. Gordon Butch Stewart is so big on the cover and is larger than all the other faces? Can you
yes.
tell us more about that? Why is he center stage?
It's not a cheeky question. I think it's a good question. You know, and it gives me an opportunity to really explain what was happening here. Well, you don't really have to introduce Butch Stewart to Jamaicans, Nearly every Jamaican of a certain age knows of, either know him or knows of him. The greatest businessman we ever produced. He created the greatest Caribbean brand that's known in the rest of the world, Sandals International. Had a tremendous heart for people, loved the Jamaican people, no matter what was happening. He couldn't find himself staying away from Jamaica too long. So he started the Jamaica Observer, and I got the opportunity to become the first editor, the founding editor. So I always feel very sort of grateful to him, because I started out as a trainee reporter at the Gleaner on October 1, 1973. And then to get to the point where now I'm now the editor, the editor, the top editor, the founding editor. So I felt a bit of gratitude that he was able to start the newspaper, and that I was able to hold that position. I did leave for about 10 years. And at some point when there were difficulties at the newspaper, he then approached me to come back. And I did. So I spent the last 15 years with him of his life, but I was actually working with more than the Observer now, because I found that he was a man who, we're talking about Jamaicans who started very humbly, but followed their dream and fought and made right decisions and invested in themselves and so on. He was really probably the best example of those. And so I wanted to document his life. So I followed him around. I mean, it was easy because he had his own plane, and he wasn't afraid to say, come with me. So everywhere he would go, I would go there, and I would document and watch his life as it evolved. And he used to say to me, you know, you really should do a book. But I just never found the time to do it. I never found the time to do the book that he was suggesting I do about my own exploits. Unfortunately, he died in 2021, January 4. This year, as I'm marking my 50th anniversary, and I thought to myself, what's the best way, to mark it, to leave something solid as a marker for my 50th anniversary. And I thought maybe this is the time to do the book. And as I explained, that Jamaican people are what I love about my country. So I'm going to combine all of that. So the book is going to be about these people. I'm going to carry out the encouragement that I used to get from Mr. Stewart to do the book. And I did. So who better for me to dedicate it to? All that he has really meant for me, to me. So it wasn't difficult, and I thought about various people that I could do it. I could have the book dedicated to. I thought he was just the perfect one. And this came up with this beautiful design by one lady called Elder McCallum. Um, Wonderful design, really. I mean, understated, but wonderful person. And in fact, she's the one who designed this poster and the book, of course. So I hope I've answered that question. It took a long time, but that's
So,
right.
so the book is a tribute to Mr. Stewart, who encouraged you to do it.
Yeah.
And for those who are listening around the world, because the podcast is aired in over 27 countries, as far
Well,
as India, Australia. So this is Jamaica's most successful businessman, Gordon Butch Stewart. and he's
Yeah.
renowned for the Sandals Hotel, as you heard,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
a tremendous legacy in terms of business. And we are delighted that his story was captured like this. And thank you for paying tribute to him as the founder of the Observer. Can we segue a little bit in terms of journalism? It's 50 years in one profession. It is said that in today's world, people change careers every 4.5 years. Why journalism, and why have you stayed so long with it?
Yeah, that's a more difficult question to answer, Ruth. I've always felt though that I've found out at a very early stage what I wanted to do in life, which is, might I say, probably unusual. I think I'm talking about like age 14, 15, where I knew I wanted to be a journalist. I pursued that, and with a lot of support and assistance from many people, and realized the dream when I left Cornwall College in Montego Bay. I went straight to the Gleaner newspaper to start. And I just found that the writing was, now I'm a young man now when I went to the Gleaner, 18 plus, going into 19. I found that when I actually started to write for a career, the passion just overflowed. I couldn't stop. I wanted to write. I couldn't stop writing. And sometimes they would have fun with me, at the Gleaner, because the older reporters, who some of them were already very jaded, and some of them were just there as a work, right? But so what they would do is they saw my enthusiasm and my passion, and so what they would do is say they have an assignment that they weren't interested in covering, or they have something else they want to go and do. They would come to me and ask me if I could do it. I would never say no. So no matter how much I had on my own plate, I would take it on and do it. So after a while, that became none around the plate. Some people would actually laugh. So if you want somebody to cover your assignment, go see the young Ali there, man. Go ask him. But that's kind of passion, And then it also the older people, editors, section editors, also started to notice that, and they would come to me and congratulate me all the time and encourage me and say, "Boy, you're really doing well with the writing." There's one in particular named Percy Miller, the father of Professor Aaron Miller. Percy Miller told me, "You have a facility with words." I don't think I speak as well as though I write, but I didn't even notice those things, because I'm a youngster. But over time, I started to see for myself, that, oh, but I can write, and I could learn this thing and keep doing better. So that was happening, and I just kept enjoying it. There are other aspects of the journalism, because you start getting opportunities to travel and to meet these, where some of these well-known people in the world that you hear about, read about, see on TV. I was able to see them in the flesh, I mean, it just felt good to be shaking hands with the Queen or Prince Charles at the time, and people like that, to be in the presence of Barack Obama, and just these many, lots of them over the years. I can't remember everybody. So and then you're always dealing with people. You're dealing with people, and that is always interesting. It's not just a desk job where you sit down. Where things are happening in Jamaica, development, news developments here and there and so on. So in its own way, it sustained my interest and it held my interest. And I got to, a situation where in 1983, I was invited to join a team of journalists from the first world and the third world, or from the developed world and the developing world. I was the only journalist from the developing world to join that team at the United Nations conference in the then Yugoslavia. And that just blew my mind, when I got there and I saw what was happening. It's just awesome. So we were going to put out a newspaper for the United Nations Conference, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD. So I work with this high level team, from the first world. It was great. I remember our late Prime Minister Hugh Shearer. Well, he wasn't Prime Minister at the time, but he was a minister. I think he was the Minister of Foreign Affairs then. So he came to represent Jamaica, head of a delegation at that meeting in Belgrade, Yugoslavia. And when he saw my name in the newspaper, because we would do the newspaper and distribute it around the conference. It's a big conference. I mean, you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of delegates from all over the world, right? And it's a real newspaper. He saw my name in it. And he sent for me to come and see him and said, boy, I feel proud to see a Jamaican right there doing all of this, and I felt proud too. But the journalism just had a way of sustaining my interest throughout. And that has not waned. That has not waned. I don't know if there's a psychology to it that maybe somebody else would have to explain for me, but I have managed to love it. And it has kept me very stable.
And the key we can walk away with here is that you can find your passion and your purpose from early, and you can indeed stick to it. Now, as we close out the show, Mr. Allen, I want to ask you about 5 fun facts about you that people would not know.
I think 5 fun facts would be ambitious, really. That would suggest a lot of fun things about me. I've never thought of that route, I must say. All right, I'm just such a movie watcher. I mean, that not sound great, but I'm up all hours of night. I'm probably one of the best supporters of Netflix, and I was there long before that. I used to have serious collections of movies. As a young man, I used to love reading comics. I mean, I don't think people read comics now like then, but comics. And how it actually influenced my journalism. I used to love Superman comics. And Superman used to have a secret identity called Clark Kent. And Clark Kent was nothing less than a journalist. I am like 3 times married.
Oh,
That's fun,
okay.
that's
an interesting fact.
If I go back further to my earlier days, I used to have this habit, and maybe it's all together, Ruth. When you think back and put them all together, maybe they all work together for each other. I used to read from the age of 4. Like as a reader, I mean like good reader from age 4. My pet name was Raphael. Where is Raphael? Everybody saying, where's Raphael? And if my mother might send somebody, go and look if you see him and bring him come. And they would see me with the newspaper pages reading like man, completely lost. Right?
Yeah. Love it. So we've discovered that your pet name was Raphael. You were reading from the age of 4. You are a movie buff. You love comics. And of course, we learned that you discovered your passion early. And we got a number 6, you are married 3 times. You've lived quite an interesting life. But as we close out this interview, what's next for this book, Desmond Allen's Greatest Hits? And where can we find out more information? How can we get it?
All right, I should say that the copy that you held up a while ago is the what I call as the unlimited gold edition. We're gonna eventually, this is gonna go out of publication because this was to pay tribute to Butch Stewart and particularly the 50th anniversary. So it's called a limited gold edition. There's a paperback as well, with the purple cover. So nice, lovely color. And there's an ebook. So the limited edition will go out of publication perhaps sometime next year, and then we'll concentrate on the paperback and the ebook. It's volume 1. I should say, maybe at the beginning. It's volume one, which means that I'm coming with a volume two and perhaps even more as time goes by. The I have many of these great, really outstanding Jamaicans, so I could do several of these volumes of Desmond Island's greatest hits. The book is going to, at some point, reflect Desmond Island's greatest hits, Wondrous Tales of Extraordinary Jamaicans. This should whet people's appetite to want more of this and more of my writings. And I'm very, very, very proud to say that it started off very well because it became number one in category on the Amazon bestseller list. I feel good about that. It's still on the top 100. The last time I looked, it might have been at 40 something, but I noticed as people buy, it goes up and it comes down.
It's
I am
still number
always
one in new releases for the
always
paperback.
and I tell you, at whatever price point you buy this book, the value is going to be way more than what the actual price is, because it is really more about paying tribute to the Jamaican people than so much the money that it can potentially earn.
Yes. Right. And viewers, on your screen, you're seeing a sneak peek. So you could go to bamboosparks.com/Desmond Allen's greatest hit, and you can order direct from the author. He has a special there for those in Jamaica. If you order direct from the author page, Desmond Allen's greatest hits, you can have your name embossed and it will be delivered to you. So that's the gold edition that is going to go out of print in 2024. So you can order and get your name embossed on it. Congratulations, Mr. Allen. So, Mr. Allen, I just want to thank you for gracing the Authorpreneur Secrets podcast. I felt a little nervous being the one to interview a veteran journalist. So I hope you didn't mark me too hard, but it has been such a pleasure learning about your journey. And I am so delighted that you have captured the heart of Jamaica in its citizens and putting their stories out there. Congratulations for 50 years, your golden anniversary in journalism. And we look forward to the success of your book and many more to come.
Yes, thank you. I actually enjoyed the interview. You know, as somebody who has interviewed countless people, you kind of forced me to go a little deeper than I expected at the beginning, but I appreciate it. I don't know if it means that you might soon be thinking of becoming a journalist. I might warn you that it doesn't pay as well as publishing books. But thank you very much for the opportunity, and again for publishing the book. It's wonderful. Everybody who has seen it so far, I mean, sometimes they just see the cover alone, you know, and they're just struck by the thing. It's beautiful. Thank you for you and your team for an excellent work. We look forward to moving, to the other books that will come. I hope, I want to invite the public to get their copies of the book.
Yes.
Read the stories, right? That's the most important thing. Read those stories. You are going to get value for money, and you're going to get examples of Jamaicans moving forward despite obstacles, and you're going to see yourself in those stories. And that is what it's all about. That is what, if that is achieved, then I would have achieved my purpose of publishing the book.
Awesome sauce. Take care, Mr. Allen. I trust that you enjoyed that interview. You learned more about Jamaica. I know you're excited to go get this amazing book, this keepsake. All right, that's it for today's show. Just reminding you that of the making of books, there is no end. Go pen it to win it and dominate authorpreneurship. Ta for now, until next time.